Good morning. Welcome to another Cars and Coffee with Kenny. I'm Kenny Brown, and if you're a car guy that wants to learn about your car and performance, you're in the right spot. Because I'm going to spend the next hour just answering your questions and talking about you things you want to know. And on today's subject, this is a big episode. I'm going to try to squeeze it all in. Today I'm going to talk about we've got a lot of questions on tires. So the major subject is going to be tires. Ernie wants to know about adjusting Panhard bars and control arms, so we'll talk about that. And I've got kind of a cool product. I don't know why I brought this out before, but it's like the quickest, easiest, and most cost-effective way to improve the performance of your car. With that, somebody mentioned I hadn't changed the picture. So I thought before I change the picture, I should probably move it over so you can actually see what it is. And what this is by Nicholas Watts, and I've got several of Watts's works, and this is the winning Ford GT in 1967 with Dan Gurney and A.J. Foyt. And it's obviously signed by the artist, but it's also signed by Dan Gurney and also Phil Hill. Well, Phil Hill isn't driving a Ford GT, but I don't know if you can see it or not, but Phil Hill is in the chaparral right behind him. I have to... There, now maybe you can see Phil Hill's in the chaparral back there. So I thought before I switch them out, I should at least show you exactly what it is. Something else, you may see blotchy spots all over my face. Well, that's courtesy of my dermatologist. I am very religious about seeing my dermatologist every 3 months. And as most of you know, that I lost my oldest son, Paul, to skin cancer the year after he won the Pirelli World Challenge Championship. And I mean, that was such a loss to me. He was one of the best drivers I ever worked with. Hold on. Okay. Anyway, he was so good. In 2011, he wanted to run the World Challenge, and Ford wasn't going to have the process right in time. So we built our own. I mean, I was in Chicago. I was on the phone with him almost every day. And he did a project. He built a race car in 30 days. And I'm going to say that the race car we built was actually better, in my opinion, better than the Boss S's, because Paul absolutely dominated. He dominated. I mean, he put on a driving lesson to everybody. He won 5 races, and that tied Pernelli Jones' single-season win record.
Why don't you tell the rest
Plus,
of the story
he led
later.
more laps than everybody else combined. Okay, I gotta move on. That's hard to me. Talked about the picture, dermatology. I mean, one of the things you should have in your toolbox, always, never take it as sunscreen, and use it liberally while you're at the track, because I've seen what skin cancer can do. It's bad. Okay, let's see. Tires is the big subject. I'm going to hold that off for a little bit. And I'm going to start with talking about adjusting control arms and Panhard rods. And for those that were with us in an earlier episode, we talked about the double adjustable control arms in our rear grip kit. And as far as adjusting, when you get the control arms from me, they're going to be pre-adjusted, just ready to stick in the car. And you might remember we've got offset bushings, so that we actually take in a Mustang, the front is splayed out, and that doesn't give me geometry I'm looking for, so we offset it so it's parallel to center line. Every race car I ever worked on has parallel control arms. But if you need to adjust, if you don't have mine and need to adjust it, the really simple method is get yourself an old control arm, put some 14mm bolts through it, and adjust the control arm to the original length. And oh, by the way, Ernie, these are your control arms. Ernie bought the whole suspension, which I'm pretty excited for, because I think it's really going to make his boss go like crazy. Now the Panhard bar. The other part of this question: when to adjust the control arms. Well, when you get it from me, they should just slap right in. But if you need, like when the car's on the alignment rack and the guy in alignment says you've got thrust angle, you know, that means that your angles, your rear end's just tipped a little bit, it's not perfectly square. Well, you can actually use the adjustability on lower control arms to put it back into square. So that's one extra use for it. And also on the top upper control arm module, mine's a module because the control arm is longer and it's been repositioned for better geometry. That's preset too. But if you were to adjust things, I mean, what we're looking for is pinion angle, and typically adjust the upper control arm for pinion angle, but you also can use the lower control arms. And the pinion angle that we're looking for, so you know, is about 3 degrees up in that range. And we talked about for pinion angles, if the engine transmission angle is down 3 degrees, then your pinion angle has to be up 3 degrees. And that's so that the drive shaft works smoothly. If they're pointing at each other, then you get a jump rope. If they're pointing in the same direction, you get a jump rope, and that's vibration. So that's when you can adjust the control arms. Now for Panhard bar adjustment, it takes some very highly sophisticated tools and equipment. So I'm showing you my secret. See that? Just a plain old carpenter's level. And what we do is we'll stick this up at the edge of the fender well, and then take and measure the distance from the level to the tire. And if the distance is greater on the driver's side to the passenger side, then you want to make the Panhard bar longer. At the end of the day, you want to keep adjusting it so that the distance between the tires on both sides is just about the same. Now, if it's off a 1/16 of an inch, don't worry about it. You just want to get it pretty close. So that's the sophisticated way to adjust a Panhard bar. And if anybody goes to Harbor Freight, you've probably seen these. Every time I get one of the free things, I pick one up because I keep them everywhere. So that's controlling the Panhard bar and the control arms. Now, we want to give a really big shout out to Daryl Hopkins. He invited the SN95 351 Windsor Swap Forum, the 79-04 Mustang Road Race, HPD Autocross Forum, and the SN95 94 95 Mustang Enthusiasts. Thank you very much. I hope all your people get some real value out of this. And also Kane and Tim invited Mustang Owners Online Facebook group. If you're in a group and you think that people in your group could learn something and gain some knowledge and from my experience, please just link them up. Also, if you have friends that you think will gain value out of what we're doing here, be sure to invite them too. And also the Speed Therapy Society. How many people do we have out there today that are already in the Speed Therapy Society? Because that's our little private group where we're going a lot of cool things are going to happen in there. And what? Yeah, people have been here a while. I know that I can't do this without Carrie making signals and holding up signs. But okay, we're going to get moving on. Thanks for linking those people up. And like I say, if you got friends, groups you think that can gain, that would interested in learning more, this is the place to come on Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock on Facebook Live. Okay. Oh, on the now Ernie, his control arm this is. I had a really good 15-minute consult with Ernie, helping him think through this car, how to set it up, what he was doing with it, what's going to be the best stuff. And that's just so you know that I, like maybe 3 times a week, I'll open my schedule up to do what we call a 15-minute consult, complimentary. If you've got questions, there's a lot of questions I just can't answer briefly when they come in. And also, if you got questions today, send questions in, because as you know, I only talk about what you guys want me to talk about. So you got questions, send them in. We'll try to get to them a little later on. Okay. Wow, I got through all my half-stews. Now let's talk about tires. There are obviously lots of different kinds of tires. I'm guessing the subject you guys want to talk about is going to be track tires, street tires, street tires, and race track tires. Now you can look at tires, and I look at tires in 3 different categories. There's high performance street, street track or track, and then track as in racing or club racing, or just full-time track. Now in the street performance category, you want to go for max performance tires, because a tire like the Michelin Pilot, I think it's S4 or 4S, that's a great street tire. And you can also, if you're in novice, even up intermediate, you can take that right to the track. And there's other street track tires like the Pirelli P0 that I like, that we'll talk about here in a minute, that are a track tire that you can drive home and drive back. In fact, you can drive it all the time if you want. And then there's like the pure track tires. You know, we're getting into like slicks and dedicated track tires. I got a note here. I got something really cool. I'm going to show you guys a little later on. It's the quickest, easiest, most cost-effective way to improve the performance on your Mustang, or any Ford product that has a drive-by-wire accelerator. And we put them on our cars, and we put them on all our customer cars, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I'm talking about tires. A question that came up is stagger versus square. Okay, stagger versus square. I mean, if you're just a regular track day guy, up to intermediates, and you know, running a square setup is kind of the best, because you can actually rotate the tires. If you got a square setup, you can just kind of move the tires around so you get better life out of them. The staggered setup would be smaller front, larger rear. Oh, on the square setup, and my favorite square setup is 285, 35, 19, and we'll get to that in a minute. If we're running staggered, you're running like we run staggered on some cars, 10-inch front and 11-inch rear, with a 285, 295 front and a 305 rear. Anytime you get up in the 500 horsepower range or more, you want to run a little extra tire in the back, just because, you know, Mustangs are loosey-goosey in the back, and the rear grip kit fixes a lot of that. But even so, I mean, we want to tie the back of the car down, and we can actually, on a staggered setup, we'll actually run a little different spring rate in the back. I'll go up maybe 25 pounds, or depending on the car, 25 to 50 pounds, just to shift some of the grip to the front, because the back's going to have tons of grip with the rear grip kit and a fat tire. So a little higher spring rate will shift more grip to help the front turn. And then here's the best time to check temperature. You know, the best time to check temperature is right off the track when the tires are nice and hot. I know at some track events it's really impractical, because at the end of the race they kind of herd you down the pit lane and you can't stop. You have to go back to your paddock area. Well, if you do, jump out and take the temperatures as soon as you can, because any data is better than no data at all. And they're going to cool some, but we're looking for the temperature not on the surface but below, which is why I don't use an infrared. Infrared will give you surface temperature, and that cools really fast. What you want to do, and this is something else that's really cool I want to show you guys. What you want to do is use a probe type barometer, and you can see it's got that little probe on there. You want to stick that down into the rubber of the tire, because you want to know what the temperature of the tire is inside. Now this is kind of like a professional grade. I just thought you guys would be interested. But this is a memory tire barometer, and turn it on. Oop, turn it on the other side. And what it does is got memory in it, and as you go around the car, you can take left front, left rear, right front, right rear. And you don't have to have anybody writing it down. It's just real quick, and the memory's in there. Now this is not cheap, but this, at the professional level, this is what we use, because it's really fast. We can get tire temperatures really quick, and then we've got stored memory, so we can go back and look at the other tire temperatures. But remember, you want a probe type and get stuck into the tire for temperature. And then we talked about using tire temperature to adjust your tire pressure. And this is the pressure gauge I use. It's really simple, works great. But I want to show you something else at the professional level. This would be a tire gauge that would be used at the professional level. Turn it on. Now, I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see. But this actually goes to 1/10 of a pound. Now, I was working for some Indy cars for the 500. us IndyCar teams, they work on their pressure. Tenths of a pound is how they work on their tire pressures. So that's why, I mean, you don't need something this elaborate, but even so, a digital is always really handy because you can, you're not looking at a dial, looking at digital. So those are like two pieces of professional equipment I thought you guys might be interested in. So, the answer to your question, it's as soon as you can. Another trick that I do if we're at an event where they, you get a checker flag and you do parade lap straight to the pits, or they take you off one of the corners and back to the pits. Well, the thing to do is, how long the session is going to be. Watch the clock. Have the clock in your car set so watch the clock. And when you think it's about one lap before the end, do a really hot lap, and then come screeching, well, not screeching, you have to follow pit rules, but come into the pits and have somebody go ahead and check the tire temperatures, because they'll let you in the pits when they're still running on track, because then a lot of times I'll be in there, the checker flag will come out, and we'll be all done, we've got a great tire temperatures. So there's a couple of tips on tire temperatures. And I like people that know me, if you're running up my stuff, and you're a track day, and you want to know the car's doing this or doing that, or want to do this, want to do that, and you call me up, my first question is, what are your tire temperatures? The second question is, what are your alignment? With those two pieces of information and what you're telling me from what you're reading with your pedometer, I'll come up, we'll talk about it, and we'll come up with some changes for you that'll make the car better. So that's, here's another one. Is the BFG R1 a good track tire? Yeah, it is. And I'm going to talk, I did research on some track tires and some full track tires and street track tires. When you get something like BFG, they're going to be 18-inch. Now, my philosophy or theory on wheels is 18 inches for race tires, 19 inches for the street and track days, because I like that little taller sidewall, and 20 inch is for show. I just don't like the sidewalls. I mean, you want to get some launch off the corner, and if you look at drag race cars, I mean, sidewalls are like this big. That's because it'll dig in and grip, so I like a little taller tire. And besides, there's just great tire choices in 19 for street track tires. So that's it. It's the 18 for race, 19 for street track, 20 for show. And the other thing in talking about tires, if people don't know how to read the side of the tire, there's going to be like three numbers. There's going to be 305, 30, 18, and 19. The first number is the width of the tire in millimeters. And I got this to kind of show you a little bit. This is, this is just an inch rule with millimeters at the top. Now, if we're talking about a 275, that's the width of a 275. You go to 285, you add another 10 millimeters, that's a 285. You go to 299, another 10 millimeters. You go to 305, and that's about a foot. So the first number is the width. The second number is the aspect ratio. And as your tire or wheel diameter gets bigger, typically your aspect ratio goes down. Or even on 18s, you've got a low aspect ratio. The lower the number, the shorter the sidewall. 30s and 35s are kind of what we use. Street cars would be anywhere from 40 to 50, because they want street tires are taller tires. So that's kind of like the very basics on tires. And the third number is obviously the size. So 305, 30, 19 would be a 305 width, 30 aspect ratio, and a 19-inch wheel. And what I did, because somebody asked about the R1s, and then someone else asked about the NTO ones, if they liked it. I'm going to talk about these a little bit more, but let me know what tires you guys are running on track and how you like them, how they perform for you, because I think that'd be really interesting to know who's running what tires. But here's another note I made. As far as wheel width and tire size, it's really important that your wheel width and tires are dimensionally in the same ballpark. For example, a 275 would go on a 9.5-inch wheel. A 285 would go on a 10-inch wheel. 295, and both 295 and 305 on most tires will go an 11-inch wheel, and 325 is 11 and a half. Now, also, if you look the tires up, they'll give you like what the tire was measured at. Like say it was measured at 10. We pretty much can know that if the measure width is 10, that you can go to a 9.5 and go to a 10.5. Now, if I had a choice between let's say a 285, it's supposed to be a 10-inch. Let's go up one. Let's go to like 295. A 295 would go on an 11-inch, and it could also go on 10.5 and 11.5. I would rather see a wider tire on the maximum wheel width than a wider tire on the minimum wheel width, because it's going to open up the tread more, getting that spread on the wheel. So if you have like a 285 and you want to run on a 9.5, that's fine. But it's better to run on 10, and even better to run on 10.5. There's more to grip in the wheels than the tires, because the width of the wheels designate how much tire is actually on the ground. So keep that in mind. Whatever you're looking at, tires and wheel size, I'd rather see a tire that's maximum wheel width than its minimum. So that's kind of a little bit on tires and rim width. Now, what I did is I went to my #1 resource for tires, Tire Rack. And if you want to know about any specific tire, you want to know the stats on it, you go to Tire Rack, you go in their drop downs, you go to brands, and then you pull up whatever brand you're looking for, you pull up the tire, and then they'll have all the sizes. Then you can pull up the size that you're running or thinking about running and get the specs on it. And it's going to tell you the measured rim width, the minimum maximum rim width, and also the diameter. The diameter is kind of important. I don't like too short of tires for street and track cars. Most of the tires we use are in the 26-inch range, I say 26 to 27, a few in the high 25s. I like tires in that 26 to 27 range for height. They just seem to work out, and also how they look on the car was lower, and they look a lot better. So I went to Tire Rack, and I looked at their 4 most popular track tires. And this is like in order, the Toyo Proxys RA1, which surprised me because that's got treads on it. Hankook Z214, the Proxys R888, and the BFG Force R1. And based on what people have sent in, the RA1 was 100%. That was 100%. That was the marker of the group. The Hankook came in at 88%, the Proxys at 85%, and the G-Force at 82% in that group. Now, the other thing that if you want to know about tires, when you're looking up under the specs on the Tire Rack thing, you see the wheel width, the diameter. You can also see the tread, how soft, sticky the tread is. I'll show you now. A typical street car, the tread wear is anywhere 300, 400, somewhere up in there, depending on the tire, whether it's like a touring tire or just a tire. As the numbers come down, the tires get stickier. For example, the Proxys RA1 is rated 100. The Z214 is tire grip at 40. The R888 is 100, and the R1 is 40. The lower you go, the stickier the tire. Now, there's kind of a trick that the tire companies are doing in a lot of like the Optima and a lot of those other type of events. The maximum tread wear, or minimum tread wear you have is 200. So a lot of these manufacturers are putting tires at 200 just so they're legal, even though their wear rate is below that and they're stickier. So obviously, so the tires do well. So I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with that. I think there's other people that do. So that's kind of on the race tire side. Now on the street track tire, the way they have them listed is the Pirelli P0 Corsa. That's my favorite. The Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2. They were a tie. They both had tie. They're both 100%. and then the P0 Trofeo R, and the Yokohama Adven AO 48. It's interesting, the P0 Corsa has a tread wear of 60, the Michelin Sport Cup 2 is 180, and the Trofeo R is 60, and then the Yokohama is 60. Yeah, I kind of see that as interesting. I'm surprised that the, first of all, on the top group, on the track only, autocross only, that the Proxys RA1 was the big choice, because that has treads, and I wouldn't think that would be, but obviously it is. And then the Versys, I think that's more of a slick type tire. The RA1's a slick type tire, and the 888 is another tire with some tread in it. So, I mean, if the question is the BFG Force R1 a good tire, I can tell you that we ran them in the Mustang Challenge, and I have no complaints. I mean, they work good, they wear good. You know, I would say, yeah, it's a good tire. Is it the ultimate in grip? You know, I don't know. It's got a good grip ratio. It was voted number 4, but you know, people have different ways of looking at tires. So I say, yeah, that's a pretty good tire. So out of that group, you know, the 2 slicks would be the ones that I'd gravitate towards. And also what's not on here is a Hoosier. If you're running slicks, I mean, Hoosier has a great selection of track slicks. And talking about slicks, anytime you guys go up to like a slick type tire, super sticky tire, you need to look at your spring rates. The stickier the tire, the more spring rate you need for a couple reasons. One, the tire is going to, as you're going around a corner, the slip angle, the street tire is going to slip a little bit, and you're going to go around a corner, and the car is going to lean a little bit. But with a racing tire with extra grip, that tire is going to just stop, and then the car is going to continue to lean. So a lot of times you're going to wear out the outside of your tire, and that's not what you want. If you're maximum camber and you're wearing out the outside of your tire, you need more spring. Plain and simple, you need to cut down the roll of the car. So I mean, there's for people that are running slicks, set up a 15-minute consult with me, and I can talk you through. We'll talk about the springs you have and maybe what you might need. Because I mean, if you want to run that type of tire, I really want to see you get the maximum performance out of it. And you know, that's spring rate, as you know, is everything. Oh, you see some little thumbs up going up. We like that. I mean, that helps us spread the word. So keep them coming. And also little heart-shaped wrenches. They're not hearts, they're actually wrenches that got deformed. But like on the P0 Corsa, the reason I like it, I mean, it's got amazing grip, extremely predictable. I mean, it doesn't like let go. I mean, it lets you know, you might not be want to doing this because I'm not too happy. So it gives you a lot of warning when it's running out of grip. Also, it's got a nice tread pattern. If you watch Formula One and you look at the tread pattern on the intermediates for Formula One, it very closely resembles the tread pattern on the P0 Corsas. That's why you can drive them on the street and drive them on the track, and they also work in light rain. I was at Sebring one time giving somebody a ride, and we just got through turn 1, and as you know, Florida, when it rains, it doesn't let you think I'm going to rain, it just rains. And it just was a torrential downpour between 1 and 2. And I drove around in a rain that was just a downpour. And I can't remember who it was, maybe a magazine editor or somebody, but he was blown away I was able to keep some level of speed through the rain to get back to the pits. And as soon as it started raining, I had to jump back and look to see what tires I had on. So that's kind of my favorite. Also, the Sport Cup 2, great tire. Michelin has been around for a while. They got a lot of racing history. They build great tires. I wouldn't be afraid of the Sport Cup 2s. The Trofeo R's. Trofeo R is kind of an interesting tire from Pirelli. It's super sticky. I mean, it's super sticky. It's also, the carcass is different. It actually has a race car type carcass. Now, the tires we're all talking about here are basically DOT type tires, which meant they're built on like a DOT type carcass. That's why we do the temperatures and adjust the tire pressures to the tire temperatures. And at the end of the day, when you start doing this, you're going to find that all 4 corners are going to have a different tire pressure. And that's because you're asking each tire to do a different job. Left front's going to work the hardest, right rear is going to work the next hardest, and the right front and right rear. So we use the tire temperature to set the pressures. And the thing about race tires, like in the World Challenge, we're running Pirelli slicks. True race tire like Pirelli has a different type carcass. That's the whole tire itself. And for those tires, we actually run to a specific pressure. Like all 4 tires would be typically, it's like 30 to 34. I think we were mostly in the 32 range, but you look at your tire temperatures because you need to know that, especially for adjusting camber. But it's like temperature. We always start a little bit high and bleed them down so we have an exact same temperature all the way around. So that's the difference between a race tire and a street tire. Now, the Trofeo R's kind of fall in that same category where we'll set them to a specific pressure. Still look at tire temperatures, but work them to a specific pressure. And I mean, they're super grippy. Of course, they won't last as long as a Corsa or a Sport Cup, but they do grip. And I have no experience with the Yokohama AO48. If anybody does, let us know. Yeah, I'm really interested to know what tires you guys are running and how you like them, because that's kind of important.
I have a few comments, just whenever you're at a break.
Got some comments, so I'll take a break. Brad says he doesn't know when I breathe, because when I get on a roll, I get on a roll. That's the way I am. So there, I breathe for you.
Okay, and I'll read the questions and then you can respond. Paul Miller, he said, good morning. How does vehicle weight affect the tire decision? He's building a 2005 Crown Victoria Sport that he's hoping to achieve sports car level handling with and have a set of 2013 Boss Laguna Seca wheels for this car.
Okay, what year was it?
2005 Crown Vic.
Okay, 2005 Crown Vic. The Boss wheels, first of all, Boss wheels aren't going to fit. And the reason is when they went to that platform, the front suspension is all aluminum and the track is really wide. We had to, we used like super positive offset wheels like you put on a front wheel drive car because there's just no room between the wheel and the caliper. And what we did for our Supercharged Marauders is we put in, we worked with Bear and we came up with a really, really slick 2-piston caliper that the pistons on the inside, it's a high performance caliper, 2 pistons on the inside, it's got really big pads so that there's room on the outside for the wheel because it's really heavy offset. So, when you're doing that, look at your wheels. And as far as tire choice, on a heavy car, as big as you can get, plain and simple. The heavier the car, the more tire you need. The way the Mustangs come out of the factory, the tires that come on them, to me, are way under-tired for the weight of the car. But in the Crown Vic, what we used to run, we had special wheels on the Marauders and the Supercharged Vics, and I think we ran a 255, 35, 19. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. But if you can get minimum 255, you can get a 65 on there with a wide enough wheel that it clears everything, that'd be better. You don't want too short a wheel, you want a taller side aspect ratio because it's a heavy car. And you can, what kind of handling did he want?
Okay.
Sports car handling?
Sports car, yeah.
Okay, it's getting sports car handling. There's not a lot of off-the-shelf things that can help you with that. If you can't find anything, what I would do is I would get police springs for the front, and I'm guessing you've got airbags in the back. I get police springs for the front, and what we used to do in the Crown Vics is we take and we clip the police springs just a little bit because they're higher rate, and so we lower the car. And then also the police front sway bar, don't change the rear sway bar because the Watts link sits on the top of the differential. And as you guys know, on Watts links, wherever the rotating pin is, that's the roll center. And it's on the top of the differential, so the roll center is pretty high. We talked about a Watts link on the back. You can't get it low enough to move the roll center down. That's why in the rear grip kit, we put a roll center relocation kit where we take the Panhard bar and we drop it all the way down to the bottom of the differential, is where we used to run the roll center in the Trans Am cars. So yeah, it's as big a tire as you can get, but watch the wheels. The wheels at the front are kind of a big issue, and then Bear does have, call us up and we can get you fixed up with a high performance brakes from Bear. But if you can't find what you need and you can't really build anything, get the police stuff because it's heavier duty and that'll help a lot. And also the quality of tires, high performance, max performance tire is going to give you better handling too.
Okay, I have a number of comments on what tires people have. One tech question from Travis Weiser. If the outside of the tire is wearing out, won't the outside temps be higher than the middle and inside temps also? This question is related to your comments on when you need more spring in the car.
Yeah, okay, and that's a good question. This is a really good question because I'm going to take the whole tire thing just one step further and tell you what I do with tires. Now, when I'm working with on teams, working with cars and drivers, certainly we'll look at the tire temperatures. Now, Travis said if the outside of the tire is wearing but the tire temperatures are okay, what's happening, there's at least one corner on the track where the car is rolling way too much and there's not enough camber or there's not enough spring and it's getting onto the outside of the tire. When you're doing your tire temperatures on a McPherson strut car, you always want a little more temperature in the inside. So you want to be running negative camber, at least maybe 15, 20 degrees, because you'll need all that camber somewhere, I guarantee. Also, hey, you look at Formula One cars, they go down the pit lane like that. They run a ton of camber. In fact, they're limited to camber. Even the World Challenge on slicks, Pirelli has a guidelines. You can't run any more than like 3 or 3.5 degrees camber, period, because they don't want you on that sidewall. So if the outside is wearing, but the tire temperatures are pretty good, you got a little more heat on the inside, and you got all the camber it'll take, you need more spring. That's the easiest way to tell if you need more spring is if you're wearing the outside tire, when you got the maximum camber, you need more spring. The other thing that I do, there's three aspects to when I read tires when we're racing. Number one is the tire temperatures, and you all know how important tire temperatures are. Number two, I actually look at the tire, read the tires. I have been doing this for so long, I can look at a tire and pretty much tell what it's doing. How it's the inside, the outside, the graining. I mean, just looking at the face of the tire will tell me a lot. And I recommend you guys start looking at your tires. What is the tire telling you? And the third key element to tire temperatures and pressures and camber is the pedometer from the driver. The feedback from the driver, along with reading the tires and tire temperatures, is how I make my adjustments during a race or during setting up for a race. So those are three things that you start to need to be aware of, and it's like start doing this. I mean, the whole idea is the more you do, the more you learn, the better you get. Because I got to tell you, making adjustments on race cars, honestly, it's a guessing game. Now, when you've got a lot of data and you've done a lot, and you can go back to your notebooks. Remember, we talked about having a notebook. Your guesses become very narrow and very precise. So at some point, it's not really a guess. You know what the outcome is. But for a lot in the beginning, you guys will be doing like adjusting shocks, adjusting sway bars, adjusting tire pressures, camber. I mean, you're going to have to be guessing which direction to go, and it's like I say, the more you do it, the more notes you take, the more data you have to go back to, the less time it's going to take to get set up. You can just go to your notes and say, oh, I know what's going to happen. But yeah, start looking at your tires, look at tire temperatures, look at the surface of the tire itself, and then what's your butt telling you. Tires make two kinds of noises. There is an unhappy noise, which is a shriek that they're telling you, what the hell are you doing? And then there's kind of a happy noise where they kind of sing and they say, well, you're doing okay, but don't do any more. So if it's a nice little sing, it's okay. If it's a squeal, the tire's telling you, stop what you're doing because it's wrong. And never, ever lift off. If the tires are squealing, never, ever lift off the gas in the middle of a corner. Because what will happen is called trailing throttle oversteer. As soon as you lift off the gas, the back of the car is going to come around. If you get the screeching of the tires, then just need to back out of the throttle a little bit, just slow down a little bit. Like I say, never shift in the middle of a corner, and never hit the brakes in the middle of a corner. I mean, take off the gas in the middle of the corner, because it will, it'll be loose. We say loose makes you hit the back end of the car, hits the wall first. So, I mean, reading the tire, just start doing this. I mean, you guys, it's all about learning. I I've been doing this for 40 years, and every year I learn something new. I never stop learning. I mean, every track day I go to, I learn something new. So this is, don't think I don't know it all. I know a lot. I know a whole lot. But like every track session, I'll learn something new. So that's kind of like the overall on tires. What else? Another question.
Yeah, we have another.
Gives me a chance to take a breath.
We have a ton of comments. A lot of people are like the.
You wore around coffee.
Yeah. Well, Brad has. There's tons of comments, and one person, Travis Turney, is interested in feedback on the Proxys RA1. I think a lot of people are running that, and I don't know if he wants comments from everybody else or from you. He said he runs the R1Rs in the front for the street on my 03 Cobra. Very happy with the performance of the tire.
Yeah, I mean, I have very little experience with those tires. I remember back, in the, I'll say the middle days of the World Challenge, Toyo was a spec tire, and well, you're jogging my, trying to jog my memory. I can't remember which one we ran, but they were shaved, and they were shaved down pretty good. But I can't remember if it's the RA1 or the 888. I think it was the RA1, but I can't be sure. But that was a spec tire for a couple of years, and the drivers and teams, said this isn't working, and that's when they made the switch to Pirelli. And another interesting thing, when they made the switch to Pirelli slicks, they wanted to run 305 660. Now a race tire, you still have the 305 is the width, but on a Pirelli, the next number is 660. The 660 is actually the height, and a 660 is not a big tire. And Doug from Pirelli just said they shouldn't be on that 660. They need a 680. No, it's a 645. Excuse me. Start at 645, which is a really low tire, and so they went up to the 660 front and the 680 rear. The higher you go up in numbers, the taller the tire. Now in Michelin, there's just two numbers. So 300 would be the equivalent of 305. Like a 66 would be like the equivalent of 660. So they only do two numbers instead of three. But race tires are, the dimensions are different. But,
okay, I think that's good. There's a ton of comments, people commenting about their tires, but there's so many. I think I'll just let everybody read those comments, and you can read them later.
Okay.
So go on to the next subject.
I'll try to read all your comments this week, and so I'll learn what you're running and what you think about them. Because I've got a lot of experience with Pirellis. I've got experience with the BFGs, some experience with the Michelins. They're all great tires. They're just some are a little greater than others. And again, we're getting back to the driving. Every driver, every track, every day is different. And some drivers might like the RA1s. Some drivers might prefer the 888s. This experimentation. Write down your notebook. What do you think about the tires that you're running?
One more question. How old a tire would you take to the track?
How old a tire would you take to the track? That's kind of a tough question. We've run Pirelli courses for like 2 seasons. I don't know if I want to go much more than that, but but they'll wear down, so you have to change them. Like on a street tire, I wouldn't. I'm not a tire engineer, so I'm just guessing. I would say maybe 4 years, because tires are going to degrade. The compound's going to start hardening. The older a tire gets, the harder the compound gets, and the harder the compound gets, the less grip you have. So older tires are going to have not as much grip as a newer tire. I set this out. I love my cool tools. This comes in this nifty little suitcase. This is my tire hardness tester. It tests the tire, the soft hardness tire, and we can go through and we can go and compare like year-old, 2-year-old tires to new tires, and what the hardness is. And also if you're looking at tires, and if it goes way up, it's hard. I mean, if it doesn't go up hardly at all, it's a pretty soft tire. So the older a tire gets, the more of the bottle throws are going to go out of the tire, and the harder it's going to get. I mean, I say the newer the tires, the better. You know, a couple years for track on tire, I think it's fine. 3 years on the same track tire, I think I'd be changing. If you could use new tires every season, that would be optimum. But for some people, they can't. So if you can run for 2 seasons, and then also if you know the tire is a budgeting issue, run square. You know, run the same size all the way around so you can trade sizes. And I typically, when I swap tires, I'll go diagonal. I'll put the right rear, which does the least amount of work, on the left front that does the most amount of work. I move the left front to the right rear, and then I'll take the right front and put it on the left rear, and vice versa. Now, some tires are omnidirectional. You can run them either direction, but on some performance tires, you have to watch out. They're directional only. If you're rotating tires and you've got directional, you're going to have to dismount them and mount them. So be aware if you're going to rotate tires. If you have an omnidirection, it'll go either way, or do you have a directional tire? And if the directional is going to have on there this way or inside. I think some of the Pirellis say inside, so that you know it has to be on the inside. So yeah, that's my best guess without being a real tire engineer. Just on my experience, I wouldn't run more than 2 seasons on track tires, street track tires.
Okay, we have a number of other questions, but we'll get to that after you tell them what your next subject is.
Some other questions after I get to how you can increase. I keep forgetting this. You guys know, weren't for Carrie, I forget my coffee. No, coffee I never forget, trust me. If you're just joining us, I'm Kenny Brown. This is Cars and Coffee with Kenny. Did anybody notice the change in the beginning? I usually say Kenny Cars and Coffee, but we had a contest to see. Carrie wanted Cars and Coffee with Kenny, and I wanted Kenny Cars and Coffee. So we had a contest, and she blew me away. Everybody wanted Cars and Coffee with Kenny, and Ernie made a good comment. He said, you know, it's if you say Kenny Cars and Coffee, it's like Kenny Cars. So Coffee, Cars and Kenny would be better. So welcome to Coffee, Cars and Kenny. I'm gonna have to get used to that.
You said it wrong.
Did I?
Yes.
Coffee, Cars, and Kenny.
No, Cars and Coffee.
Oh, Cars, Coffee, and Kenny. And also Speed Therapy Society. That's a group we have. It's a private Facebook group. If you're not in, please join, because we're going to be doing a lot of really cool things in that group as the season goes on. And if you've got friends that think you can gain some value out of my extensive experience and knowledge and all this stuff, motorsports, street cars, track cars, please link to them, invite them to join. And also, if you're in a group that think they might get something out of this, invite them too. The more the merrier. Okay, the slickest, easiest way to increase the performance of your car comes in a little tiny box. What the hell is that? There it is. This is the JMS Pedal Max. And what it does, this is just for drive-by-wire cars, like 5 and newer Mustangs and other Fords. What it does is it goes between your electronic gas pedal and the wiring loom. And one goes in the gas pedal, one goes in the loom. And what it does, it intercepts and amplifies that signal. Which means, you've probably noticed that a lot of times your throttle response is kind of sluggish. Trust me, with this, that all goes away, because it has a nifty dial that you can go from 0, which is off, to 100, which dictates how much voltage is going to go. Increase in voltage over stock is going to be. And I put one of these in Carrie's Edge. And the reason is, I was going on the interstate one day, and you've all been on the long uphill ramps, that seem to go like forever. And I just couldn't get the car to go. It was going, but not really going. And I had to actually mash it down, and it went to like the next overdrive, just a little bit faster, and mashed it even harder, and went to the next overdrive. Meantime, I got cars backed up behind me. So, I mean, this can't be. So, the difference is with the Pedal Max, you put your foot down, the car's going to go. It's going to go at whatever percentage you want. In fact, it's so effective that I turn it down in parking lots, because in parking lots, when you use a little bit of gas to do something, with the Pedal Max at 100%, you hit the gas, car's going to jump. I mean, literally. I got this chart that I think some university did on the voltage signal. Now let's see if you can see that. The bottom, I had to highlight it because it's pretty faint. The bottom would be the factory voltage signal from your gas pedal to the processor. The top is Pedal Max, and you can see the huge jump in voltage. And I mean, that voltage, it does everything. The car's peppier. It's going to downshift sooner. I mean, it's just all around, it's going to be a better car. I mean, we put these in all the cars we do because it's like the simple, easiest, cheapest way to do something. I mean, it's only $289, which is, a bargain. But you want to really increase your performance. I don't have the data, but I've been told that somebody did some dyno stuff, and because the voltage it ramps up so much faster, it actually picks up some horsepower and torque. I don't have the data on that, so I can't tell you specifically, but that's just something that was relayed to me. I can tell you it works, and you're not going to believe the difference. I mean, you just hit the gas and boom, the thing goes. So that's my really cool trick, and it's easy to install. Man, 15 minutes and it's in. You got your little adjuster. I typically run in Carrie's Edge. I typically run about 60%. Running 100% is just a little much. Now, if I'm in a lot of traffic and haven't moved through traffic, like in Chicago, I'll turn to 100%. Because, in Chicago with traffic, if you see a gap, you got to go. So I'll turn it up to 100% because that'll give me that go I need. But normally I'll just set it down at 60%. In snow, it goes to 0. In rain, it goes to 0. In parking lots, it goes to 0. Because it's just too aggressive for a parking lot. And if anybody that's ever had one of these, they'll tell you. I mean, it's amazing what it does. So that's my super trick today for cheap power and performance. And we got them for the 5 to 10s are one, and then the 11 to 20s are the other one. So this is cool.
Okay, a couple of comments on the JMS. Calvin Goring.
Calvin?
You remember Calvin?
Mm-hmm.
He's worked for us. The JMS Pedal Max will absolutely transform your driving experience. The increase in throttle responsiveness will give you a lot more confidence to drive your car harder and faster. And then we have a question on it. Tim Bent would like to know, can you still use the Pedal Max with Whipple 2.3 Supercharged 07 Mustang GT? Again, can you use the Pedal Max with a Whipple 2.3 liter Supercharged 07 Mustang GT? Okay,
the short answer is yes, because it has nothing to do with calibration or anything to do with the engine or processor. All it does is intercept the signal from your foot to the ECM. And in essence, what it does, it turbocharges the signal or supercharges the signal from the gas pedal to the processor, so you get instant reaction. On a Whipple is a positive displacement. They've got pretty good grunt off the line, but even so, if you're a little sluggish, yeah, it'll work. It'll work with anything. Like I say, it's totally transparent to the car. It doesn't even see it, and it works really good.
Okay, we have a question from Paul Miller. He wants to know how much work do the rear brakes do, and how important is it to increase the diameter or sweep of the rotor? Besides aesthetics, do larger rear brakes really help?
Great question, and I have a great answer. He's asking about the effectiveness of rear brakes and if going larger makes a difference. The short answer is yes, a big difference. This is a long time ago, and I might have my numbers off a little bit, but it's in the range. We did some testing, and with a stock rotor on the back, I think we were seeing maybe 500 degrees rotor temperature. Somewhere in there. We went to the 14-inch rotor, and the temperature jumped up to like 800, which means that we're using the brakes more at the back. When on Ruby, when I went to my full race brakes at the back, the rotor temperature went up to like almost 1,000 degrees. So the more brake we put on the back, the more brake you get and the better it works, which kind of surprised me. I didn't think they were working that hard, but they do. So that, you know, the going to from the stock to like, we've got like a kit from Bear, and we've got our own part number because we only use slotted rotors, that takes the rear brakes and it puts it to a 14-inch and it retains the factory caliper. It just offsets the caliper. You have a 14-inch two-piece slotted rotor. And think of it this way. I have some more props back here out of my, for those that was in the beginning, that's my trusty toolbox. It's been with me for over 40 years, and it has been to just every major racetrack in the country if that toolbox could talk. So, okay, here's an example. We've got, this is your stock rotor. I can't remember, they're like 11 or 12 inch. And you look at the leverage, you know, what it takes to push it down or resist. And you go to a 14-inch, and all of a sudden, it's just, now you've done this, you try to get a nut loose with a small ratchet or something, and it's like, it won't go. You get a big boy, and boom, it goes. So what you're doing is increasing leverage. And the extra leverage increases braking. So yeah, I mean, most of the cars that I build will do a front brake upgrade, you know, 6 pistons or 4 pistons or whatever's right. No, actually, all the stuff's 6 piston, except for my Pro 4R race brake. And if it's a street application or a street track, depends on which 6 pistons we use in the front. But either way, always put that 14-inch upgrade in the back and keep the stock calipers. The reason we keep the stock calipers, because this is important too if you're thinking about putting big brakes on the back. The axles in an 8.8 Ford, which is in the Mustang, are called C-lock axles, which means that when you put the axle in, it goes into the differential, it kind of sticks in, you drop a C-clip on, and it pulls back into place, and then the pin for the differential goes through and holds it in place. Well, it's not real precise, and what you get is like a little in and out movement. And if you go to a hard mount brake, what happens is going around corners, the axle moving in and out will actually push the brake pads back. So the next time you go to a corner, it's like, whoa, the brake goes to the pedal goes to the ground. A good example, I can't remember what year this was, but I was working with we put our suspension on, our full suspension on somebody that had a World Challenge Mustang that was running in, that was a Mustang Challenge Mustang, running in World Challenge, I think. And I went to Salt Lake to work with the team there, and they hired some engineers, like 4 or 5 cars in the group. They hired an engineer who, actually his background was Miatas, and he put big brakes on the car in the back. And you know, after a day of testing, everybody's brake pedal went away. And one of the drivers said, yeah, who'd have thought that had happened? I said, I would. We discovered that back in 93, when we built Old Blue. And we fixed the axles so it wouldn't go in and out. What we did for that, we're running out of time. You got a couple of choices on the C-links if you want to run big brakes in the back. The factory calipers are made so they'll move with the axle and the rotor. There's a couple of choices. One, Strange now has an outside bearing mount. You cut the outside flange off and you put the Strange on, and with that you can use the axles out of a 9-inch rear end. You know, the old standard standard of racing 9-inch rear end. And what happens with that is the bearing is on the axle. It drops into the bearing housing, and then there's a plate that holds it in place, so the axle doesn't move. So that's what we did on Old Blue, to put bigger brakes on the back. That's one solution. Another solution, like what Travis did, and I can't remember somebody else did, is Bear has like what's called a full floater, which means that the hub on the and again you have to cut it off and weld it and make sure everything's straight. The hub actually mounts on the axle itself, and it just, without the axle there, you can just spin the hub and it goes round and round. So it's not, I mean, it's solid. And then the axle is like a double splined axle that, you know, goes in from the outside, it splines into the differential, and it splines into the axle housing on the outside, so then that doesn't work. Now the other thing is if you've got, we've got think Warren is running a big heavy GT 500, and he's running a lot of horsepower. It's a big heavy car. He's really concerned about the rear strength of the rear axle, and he said the last thing he wants to see is at some point his axle just careening across the grass without him. What we've done is we worked with Strange, and we actually have a 9-inch Strange 9-inch rear end that's built specifically for road racing and track days. And the 9 inches, everybody knows, is like the gold standard of racing. I mean, you're not gonna break a 9-inch. I mean, that's what they use in NASCAR, Trans Am, you name it. Everybody uses drag racing. We've got that option. I mean, it's not the cheapest option, but I mean, it's there if anybody's interested. So we had one made up for David out in the West Coast, who's building an AIX car, and it's, I mean, they're really nice pieces. And the cool thing about the 9-inch, like when we're racing, the entire differential and gear set comes at the front of the axle housing. So I mean, it's just you take all the bolts out, undo the drive shaft, the whole thing slides out, which means if you need to go from, let's say, 355 to a 370 or 410 gears at the track, you just pop this out, stick it in the can, go over, pull your 410 out, plug it in. It's pretty cool. And if you look around like Trans Am cars and some of those professional levels, you're going to see maybe 2 or 3 differential housings. We call them, hogshead lined up in a row with different ratios. So the 9-inch, putting the full floater on, or having the outside bearing, and they do have the flange now that's for the 8.8 flange, so everything you can use your brake, everything stays the same. You just use a 9-inch axle, which doesn't move.
Okay, we have 2 more. There's a lot of conversation going on. I'm going to have you look at it and maybe get back to some of these next week with any comments you have.
Okay.
But I want to cover, Chris Sauter has a question, but first I want to go to the Pedal Max conversation that's going on here.
Well, you guys are really talking. Good job. Give yourself some thumbs up.
Okay, so Brad says we use Pedal Max on all of our drive-by-wire cars, and it's awesome on the Ford dually we use to pull our trailer. I forgot, you didn't mention that.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. We actually, there was a guy a couple of doors down, they run a construction company, they got a diesel, I think it's a 250, and he put it in his truck and turned 100%, mashed the gas, and started smoking the rear tires. So, I mean, it does work in any of these cars that are like drive-by-wire.
Let's see, this is Travis Wires said, think of the JMS as a way to change your throttle map.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It actually changes the mapping of the throttle. It changes, the voltage. It supercharges or turbocharges your right foot. So the ECM has to think faster, because the time from your foot to the ECM is a lot faster.
Okay, and then Dan Graham says he's hesitant to put the accelerated booster on a big horsepower car. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, it just depends. I mean, if you've got a big horsepower car and you've got a sluggish pedal, especially on track, I mean, sometimes you want to get to the gas and just a little slow picking up, I'd use it. And just find, you don't have to turn it 100%. You just have to find that range in there where your response time for the pedal to the throttle is a lot faster. I mean, it's just, that's what the dial's on there for. Pick your setting, but it will take the sluggishness out of your pedal.
Okay, we're having a lot of question on the brake, a lot of back things.
Okay, we're going over time. We're going to try to get these brake questions.
Okay, no, we're going to cover this next week. Can you guys put comments in if you want to cover any braking tech next week, and what braking tech you would like to cover? Then we have Chris. I'm going to have to find this one. In the meantime, real quick, Joe Johnson wants to know, this is on his GT 350, and he wants you to analyze that and tell him what it is. This is tire temps.
Okay, this is tire temps, and this is great. I mean, if Joe wants to analyze it, and he sent me his tire temperatures, probably backwards of you. But left front is 117 out, 120, 116. Right front, 112, 115, 116. Left rear, 117, 127, 128. Right rear, 111, 117, 117. Okay, my first takeaway is you got a little bit too much pressure. This 116 to 117.
Can they see it?
I don't know if you can see it. 116 to 117. 120 is way high. It means the tire's crowning. You want to get that down to be at least 116. And then over here, you've got 12, 15, 16. You want to get that down like closer to 13, 13 or 14. Now here you got 17, 27, 28. What that's telling me is, I mean, the tire pressures are kind of okay, just a little high, but then you've got like good camber in the back because you're warm on the inside. 11, 17, 17. Again, that 17 between 11 and 17, that should be down somewhere in the like 14 range. So all in all, it needs a little. The air needs to come down a little bit. But the other thing I'm reading is there's just not enough camber in this left front. There's just not enough. I mean, it should be reading kind of like this. This is 17, 28, 28 in the back. That's what your front should be reading, something like that. And it's not. It's almost dead across. There's not enough camber in the car. And on the right front, the same thing. Well, same thing. There's not enough camber because the outside is good. This is inside 12, middle 15, outside 16. The outside is harder than the inside. So the tire's rolling over, so it means you don't have enough camber. If those were reversed, that'd be really good. So my quick is it needs to take a little bit of pressure out, and then also both front tires need camber. This right rear could also use a little camber because it's hot on the outside. Don't know what the alignment specs are, but it's 11, 17, 17, and when you adjust the pressure, it's going to be 11, 14, 17, and you're going to want the reverse. You want the 17 inside and the 11 on the outside. So yeah, this is good. I mean, this is what I like from people because the more information you give me, the better advice I can give you. So, and now if you're running maximum camber on the car, there's like camber bolts. I don't think there's much camber adjustment in GT350s. I'm not sure, but we've got like a camber bolt that will go in the bottom and you get like 3/4 of a degree. It's an offset. It's a slug type thing, which is offset. We can get a little camber in. The other thing is to switch to camber plates. All the shocks that we use get camber plates. And in 17, we've used the Pro 4R shocks. The RS Pro shocks, which are the double adjustment with a canister. It's still in their club line. We've used it with that. We've used it with a regular single adjustable. I mean, I can tell you from GT350, I know what the spring rates are. Don't have them in front of me, but there's not enough spring rate. There's more spring rate in the R's, but they're still 200 pounds short of what I use on track, which is why I had some of my drivers, like in 17 GTs, just kind of fly past GT350s because they're kind of way more speed through the corner and you get way more exit speed. As we know, exit speed is everything, and that's why they can pass GT350s because they just don't have enough spring. Now, if you've got the magnetic shocks, you're stuck. But if you don't have magnetic shocks, then we've got options on shocks and springs that will really make the thing handle like it's somewhere else. Plus, you get adjustability at the front.
So this is probably a really good example of a 15-minute consult with you. And Joe, you might want to call in if you want a little more detail from Kenny on this. So just either call me or else comment below, and we'll set up a 15-minute with you.
That's a really good point. Joe just got one of my complimentary 15-minute consults in about 5 minutes. So if you want to talk more about this, Joe, just call Carrie, set up a 15-minute. And, because I'm missing some information. I'm just have to guess at things. So with that.
We're going to be probably not getting to all the questions. So
we're way over time.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to have some of these questions next week,
Chris,
I think.
The question that you asked if Kenny was going to talk about throttle modification, I think we'll just hold that until next week.
Throttle modification?
Yeah.
That's GMS.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead if you want to talk about that then, real quick.
Yeah, we talked about throttle modification.
Are you going to say, oh, that's okay. This was from before then. Okay, never mind. It's me not knowing what's going And then there's a lot of other questions. I think we're probably going to end again if you want to schedule a 15-minute consult with Kenny this week. He usually does about 3 or 4. We're going to open up Thursday and Friday afternoon. So just comment below or send us a direct message or give us a phone call and we'll get you scheduled in. Remember to sign up for Speed Therapy Society.
Speed Therapy Society.
And you'll get a lot
invite your
of
friends. And you know what? We're not only over time. I'm out of coffee.
Okay.
So if I'm out of coffee, that means we've had a great day. I'll try to get more questions next week. It sounds like brakes might be the subject next week. So let me know what you want to talk about. And in the meantime, just stay safe. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. Stay safe and stay healthy. And this stupid virus thing will be gone before we know it, I hope. Okay, see you next week.